Welcome to Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Casey Porter here. It's Wednesday night in the big town with one Mr. Austin Brubaker. Austin, we have a lot to talk about tonight.
Case, it seems like there's a whole lot of different news that has dropped since we were on Friday. All of the signings across the game of baseball, some trades have taken place. The Dodgers have made some moves and some announcements of what they have. The winter meetings have taken place. The Rule 5 draft has happened. It's snowing here. It's cold in the state of Michigan, but the hot stove is incredibly hot right now. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. I'm excited to be here with you, Case. I'm excited to be here with all of the people here at Dodgers Dogs, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Take a step back and what do you think about this past week in the world of baseball? What are your guys' thoughts? I'm curious to hear from you guys what you're thinking right now. Casey and I have a lot to talk about tonight because the 2025 Dodgers are starting to take shape, and we're starting to get some answers that we even weren't necessarily predicting. But the Dodgers are making some moves, making some decisions, and now this team is starting to take shape.
Yeah, so a lot of things going on, and let's start with the fact our theme has been for a long time, wants versus needs. Mm-hmm. So the Dodgers, they're just simply fantastic at putting a pecking order together, right? So the first thing that they do is they go get what they need, right? Which was, to me, Blake Snell. Last year was Glass, now Yamamoto, Shohei Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez. Then once they get what they need, then they start looking at all the things that they want, like maybe a Garrett Crochet, like maybe a TeoscarHernandez, because they've already gotten Michael Conforto. And so now Teo is kind of in that gray area between a want and a need as far as what the way the Dodgers will view that, because Juan Soto, that type of deal, because the Dodgers definitely want TeoscarHernandez. They definitely wanted Garrett Crochet. They definitely wanted Willy Adames. They definitely wanted Juan Soto, right? No doubt about it, but they wanted them. They didn't need them, right? So let's start with the Garrett Crochet situation. Since you get Blake Snell already, the one thing that Garrett Crochet was going to give the Dodgers, other than just a dominant pitcher, it was going to give them a left-hander that has a really, matter of fact, probably the highest strikeout rate. I think it was between him and Glass now, it was the 1 and 2 strikeout rates
in the
major leagues. Yeah. So you already got that with Blake Snell, right? So
Yes.
At that point, Garrett Crochet is not worth giving up Josue De Paula and Dalton Rushing.
Yes, and that's basically what the Dodgers would have given up. So if you haven't heard, Garrett Crochet, somebody that we've talked about here, and it seems like everywhere around the world of baseball for teams that are contending, he was rumored to be traded potentially to the Dodgers. During the trade deadline last season, there was some very serious rumors between the Dodgers and the White Sox. The Dodgers seemingly were not willing to give up Dalton Rushing, so they did not make a move for a Garrett Crochet during the last trade deadline. Today, he has moved to the Boston Red Sox for a very highly touted catching prospect, Kyle Teel, for Boston, as well as several other really highly touted prospects, equivalent or similar-ish based on where you look at for rankings, which, again, I'm not an expert on the Red Sox system. I won't pretend to be an expert on the Red Sox system, so I'm not going to give any analysis on these guys. But it would be like giving up a Rushing, a De Paula, plus maybe some for the Dodgers system. Yeah. The Dodgers, because they're in a state of having wants, we're not willing to do that for Garrett Crochet. As talented as a pitcher and as much as he would have helped this Dodgers team, they are not in a position right now to where they have to go out and make that decision. If they absolutely loved and were convinced that not only would he be a solid pitcher for this team, but he would be sustainable through the full 2025 and 2026, or at least had a really good chance of being that sustained, really great pitcher, perhaps they could have gone down that route. But they didn't need to do that after they went out and got Blake Snell, and he filled in a hole that was very much needed for this Dodgers team. And you look at the rest of this team, where they are at right now, they're actually in a really good spot. I know they do not have TeoscarHernandez, and we can get into the discussion about TeoscarHernandez, which I went into that quite a bit of in depth in my show on Monday. There is a lot of rumors going around about TeoscarHernandez and about the Dodgers. he hasn't signed with the Dodgers yet. There's a reason for that. I don't know exactly what that reason is. I don't know if it's just delaying the inevitable. But with the signing of Michael Conforto, that could potentially fill in some of the hole for that a Teoscar-Hernandez filled in. And then you add, let's say, a Kike Hernandez to this lineup, and you already have 13 players, not including James Outman, as far as your position player block. The Dodgers are in a state of filling in or have already completed their needs. Now they're looking to try to address areas where they want to add to try to help address, which means they can be selective and they don't have to go past a certain cost. They have certain costs that they've set for each one of these players. And I don't know if they're willing to overpay for a lot of these guys. And we can go into discussion as far as whether it'd be the right thing for the Dodgers to go or what that price should be. But I think there's a limit to a lot of the moves that the Dodgers are going to make, and it'd be interesting to see what they're able to do going forward.
Yeah, Teo Hernandez is interesting. Let me ask you this question, Austin. Yes. You're the statistician.
Yes.
Okay, I want Teo. I don't want him for like 8 years or anything. I think he's probably wanting 5, right? You've gone over all this. So is Teo Hernandez, is he a want or a need?
He is a want.
Okay, well then let me put it to you this way.
Yes.
What other outfielder would we both agree that the Dodgers need another outfielder? Now that Mookie's moving to short, Tommy Edman's going to be in center.
If they
Michael Conforto is going to be in left.
Yes.
And then you're going to have a platoon in right field with Andy Paez or somebody, right?
I would say the Dodgers would really want to add an additional outfielder, but I would say that it's not a need for them to add an additional outfielder. And this comes with a lot of hesitation with that answer because I know the Dodgers outfield with that outlook does not look the strongest, and I think it would be a lot better if they added a player like a Teoscar-Hernandez. There is an argument, though, to say that that is not a need, and in fact, the Dodgers could go down and arguably should go down the path of playing some of the younger guys instead of giving out years and money to a Teoscar-Hernandez for similar projected production.
So you're gonna go get Blake Snell and Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, possibly Roki Sasaki. You're going to get Tyler Glass now, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. You're going to get all these guys, and your outfield's going to be Michael Conforto, Tommy Edman, and basically a rookie, or a reclamation project with James Outman if they platoon, or Kike Hernandez or Chris Taylor. So you're going to spend all this money, and that's going to be your outfield.
That's a really good argument towards going out and getting a Teoscar-Hernandez. And absolutely it is. And I'm not going to be denying that fact for the Dodgers and what they're able to do. What I will say is, and we haven't had a chance to discuss Michael Conforto. So let's talk about him first as far as...
Hold on a second. Before you do that, before we get into that, okay, I want to finish this conversation about Teo, okay?
Yes.
So let's say Teo wants 4 years and you have a club option for a 5th year, right? I think that's probably close to the compromise. Do you agree with that?
That might be a little bit of a barrier for the Dodgers to be able to do that, but so, it could be something.
So name me an outfielder that's cheaper than Teo Hernandez, that whenever you compare the years versus the dollars versus the production, name me an outfielder right now that's cheaper.
As far as projected production, which I've been looking at a lot of these numbers, which again, they are just projections as far as what they're able to produce. Sure, but that's how you have to make your decisions.
Yes, you might be wrong. But
as far as what they are able to produce, if you look at, because just recently, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Zips, which on Fangraphs, I've talked about some projection systems as far as what they're able to do. Zips is one of them. Steamer is another one. If you look at the projections, and this could get laughed at. Similar projections as far as this upcoming season might be maybe a difference of 10 points in WRC plus, 5 to 10 points is between Teoscar-Hernandez and Andy Paez. Andy Paez is a lot cheaper than Teoscar-Hernandez.
Yeah.
And so there is an argument to be made that you could even go in-house for a lot of these discussions. I'm not saying that that should necessarily be the role that the Dodgers go down, but there is an argument as far as the limit, and especially because of the year commitment that you would have to give for a
So
Teoscar
are you doing
Hernandez.
that if you're Andrew Freeman? I get all of your analysis here, not disagreeing with any of it.
Yes.
You're Andrew Freeman and you just bought Shohei Ohtani, Blake Snell, you bought Tyler Glasnow, you bought Yoshinobu Yamamoto. You're thinking about buying Roki Sasaki. In the past, you've traded for Mookie Betts. You bought Freddie Freeman. So you're Andrew Friedman, and you did all that, right? And you have all these billions of dollars on the line.
Yep.
And you've done that. Are you going to? Do you want Teoscar Hernandez out there, or do you want Andy Paez?
If it's just a one-on-one for the 2025 season, it's obviously Teoscar Hernandez. Obviously, Teoscar Hernandez that you would want to be out there. If I was Andrew Friedman, I would try to do everything I can for a 3-year deal for Teoscar. That would be, I think that would be great for the Dodgers. That would get him to where he needs to do as far as the pension is concerned. I think that's where the Dodgers want to do, and that's where I think their deal is. And I think, look, there's a great argument to be made for Teoscar for some of the teams out in the AL East, for Boston, for New York, for Toronto, that he's going to get a lot of very serious competition to extend that past the 3-year mark. And you look at a lot of the production, and this is what I went into on the show on Monday, so I'm just going to repeat this just for the audience. You look at the production of players 34, 35 plus that produce at a high offensive output, which for this Dodgers team, for Teoscar Hernandez, because he does not play the greatest defense out in the outfield, and you would expect that to go down in the future, he would have to put up significant offensive production to make it worth it during the later stages of his career. Look at the history of the number of players that are able to do that. There just really isn't a whole lot of those different types of players, which is why that I wanted to transfer it over into the Michael Conforto.
But is there anybody cheaper? Don't stay in-house. I get it. You're in-house argument. Is there anybody else, trade-wise or free agent, that is cheaper based on the production you're going to get than Teo Hernandez?
There could potentially be some options. I know there's been a lot of rumors about some trades potentially for like a Seiya Suzuki, who I don't know if he would give you the exact same type of power that a Teoscar Hernandez would, but as far as the expected numbers, as far as a lot of the peripherals, there's a lot of similarities to both him and a Teoscar Hernandez. He has 2 years left, about $20-ish million left on his contract, which would be roughly kind of the time frame that I think the Dodgers would be thinking and would be looking for. I don't know if he would give you the exact same level of production that Teoscar would, and you would have to go out and trade for him, meaning you would have to give up something for him. But I think that could be a potential backup option, especially if the Cubs are serious about trading a Seiya Suzuki. There could be some other options, but you talked about the in-house options. I think there's very realistic case to be made with those. And there's a very realistic case to be made that they really do like a player like a Michael Conforto because of his difference with home road splits, significantly better on the road than he was at home in Oracle Park, because of a lot of his expected numbers, his expected WOBA, which was in the 80-something percentile. His expected slugging was in the 80th to 90th percentile, meaning that the batted ball data for Michael Conforto was really, really solid for him this past season. I don't know if they're anticipating just simply a platoon role for Conforto, meaning I'm expecting him probably to get 400 to 450 plate appearances during this upcoming season, which is very significant amount of time in the outfield. And especially if Tommy Edman's going to be the all-time center fielder, there's not a whole lot of at-bats that you would have left in the outfield in order to play some of the other guys, some of the guys that might be coming up, some of the young guys. So that creates at least a more limited picture. Plus, if you look at Conforto and you look at Teoscar last season, the Dodgers decided to give Teoscar a 1-year deal, which I'm so glad that the Dodgers were able to do that. And I think it worked out. And the bet that the Dodgers paid and the bet that Teoscar made on himself paid off to where he's going to get a very nice contract during this upcoming season. there's a possibility if Teoscar Hernandez and his market goes past what the Dodgers are willing, that they are basically making that exact same bet, just a little bit to a lesser degree with Michael Conforto. There's an argument to be made that he's not simply just a platoon outfielder. He's a pretty regular outfielder that they're expecting.
Well, he's $17 million. You don't pay $17 million for a bench player, right?
That's exactly right. That is 100% right, which means they could have some very serious plans just for a Conforto, not just be a platoon type player.
Yeah. Any chance they give like Ryan Ward a shot out there? I mean, Ryan Ward's led like the entire minor league system in home runs. Don't trust me. Go and listen to the Chris Gutierrez conversation.
Yes.
Chris Gutierrez knows way more about this than I do. So don't believe me. I mean, listen to him. So if you don't get a Teo Hernandez and there are at-bats available and you want a left-handed power stick, why not Ryan Ward?
I don't have any disagreements with that.
He can absolutely hit.
He can absolutely hit. He is remaining within this Dodgers organization. Yes. The Rule 5 draft just took place. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Ryan Ward was not selected. I was rooting for him to get selected to get an opportunity.
I'm surprised he didn't. I'm surprised.
Really surprised that he did.
So Chris thought he was going to get taken too. Chris knows more about than any of us.
He knows as much of anybody and works as close to these guys as anybody. And I think
if he thought he was going to get taken, that means the entire Dodgers organization thought he was going to. He was echoing what the common sentiment was throughout the org. I think everybody in the org is surprised he didn't get taken.
I think you're absolutely right, which means that he's going to stay with the organization now that he's going to be staying with the organization with the strides that he has made, especially during last season, during this offseason, with the power that he had on display for USA Baseball. I think there's an argument to be made that he could very well get an opportunity during this upcoming season. Now, will the Dodgers actually give him that opportunity? They get another outfielder who would take an injury, and especially so here's where the Dodgers roster is at position player wise, and this will show you the outlook for him and maybe for some of these other young players right now. So with the Dodgers right now, with their projected opening day 13 position players, which this just includes the guys that are on the roster right now, all of the spots are filled in except for maybe one with a James Outman. So you have Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, Max Muncy, Tommy Edman, Michael Conforto, Andy Pages, Gavin Lux. Now that Mookie Betts is moving over to shortstop, which we can get to that in a little bit, Gavin Lux is going to be part of this team.
And Tommy Edman's going to be in center, so there's one of your outfield spots.
Yes. So that's right now is your starting 9. And if they roll out that lineup opening day, that is still a really good lineup.
Who's your left fielder?
The left fielder right now would be probably Michael Conforto with Pages in right.
Yeah. And any kind of platoon maybe?
Between those two, probably not, because right now your bench is Austin Barnes, Miguel Rojas. Both of them are locked in. Chris Taylor is also locked in. Yes, I know a lot of Dodgers.
No platoon with Gavin Lux or Tommy Edman from the left side or Andy Pages or any of that?
So here's the thing is right now the bench is Barnes, Rojas, Taylor, and Outman. But if they bring back a Kike Hernandez, he would take one of the bench spots, likely taking James Outman's bench spot, in which case there's probably not a platoon. In which case, if you add in Kike Hernandez and a Teoscar Hernandez, who are you removing from that bench?
Yeah.
Unless you trade a Chris Taylor or release a Chris Taylor, there's not really a whole lot of room. Do you want to send Andy Pages back?
You'd wait to get Kike until like the trade deadline.
You could potentially do that, and that could be something that the Dodgers do. But is that something that, if you're Kike Hernandez, you're like, I'll just wait until the trade deadline to be able to do that? No, I think he wants to go out there and compete and be on this Dodgers team for the full season, or at least that would be my mindset as far as what Kike would want to do.
He would be the guy out of all them, I would say, though.
He would probably be the guy. The only two guys that would have minor league options would be Lux and Pages, and I don't think either of them are spending time in the minor leagues, unless maybe Pages would be the only one that I could see, in which case I don't think he deserves to spend time in the minor leagues. I think he deserves a shot. So the reason why I wanted to point this out is because even for guys like a Ward, even guys for like a Rushing, which there's a really good conversation in the interview that he released yesterday about Dylan Rushing and his kind of maybe some of his time frame, especially with his playing abilities.
Chris did a good job with that, didn't he?
Go ahead and check that out. Yes, go ahead and check that out, because I think that's going to provide Dodgers fans with a lot of insight as far as that. But as far as these these younger guys that might be coming up, even without TeoscarHernandez and maybe just adding in a TeoscarHernandez, there's really not a whole lot of room on this Dodgers lineup, which means the Dodgers don't necessarily have to go out and make a move. And I think this is something that adding in a Michael Conforto complicates the situation with bringing back TeoscarHernandez a little bit, makes you question, are they actually going to bring him back or not? Which I'm hoping that as we are live, that they actually sign him and ease some of these areas to rest. But there is an argument to be made that it might be in the best case for the Dodgers' long-term future, not the short-term future. I think TeoscarHernandez is a better player in the short term, but the long-term future to actually give some at-bats to these younger guys, and that only happens with actual opportunities, which will not come if you bring back TeoscarHernandez.
Something the Dodgers very rarely give their position players. They just don't give their position players chances at all compared to other clubs. But you say it's the Michael Conforto part of it that complicates things. I don't. We talked about this on the margins and a couple of shows ago, that the Dodgers were going to go acquire an outfielder on the margins, right? And although I think Michael Conforto is better than a margins player, I think that's kind of the role that they first saw whenever they went and got him in case they get Teo, right? I mean, he could easily end up being the everyday right fielder too, even if they do get Teo or whatever. But I think that's kind of what the philosophy was there. So I think what's really, they were going to get, so I'm saying they were going to get, whether it be in-house or somebody else, they were going to get the Michael Conforto type of guy, right? Yeah. So I don't think he's the one creating the complications as far as roster spots. The one that's creating the complications is, I think we all just assumed that Mookie Betts was going to play second base, especially after Dino Ebel comes out and says he's going to be an all-star over there and whatever. And we just assumed Gavin Lux would not be on this team because he's too good to be riding on the bench. And so we assumed he'd be traded, right? And so that not being the case, that's the one roster spot that I really thought might go to a Dalton Rushing, might go to a James Outman, or could potentially go to even somebody like a Ryan Ward. And now because Gavin Lux is still on this team and Michael Conforto, that margins guy that we were talking about, now you have one less roster spot, and it's going to make it extremely difficult for even a James Outman and almost impossible for a Ryan Ward and maybe even a Dalton Rushing from a numbers perspective.
Yes, both of those create very different. Now, ideally for the Dodgers, if you're just talking about an ideal world, which I don't believe is going to happen, you would open up a roster spot from Chris Taylor's, just because I don't think he's providing as much production. You would like to have a little bit more impact on that, and that would ideally be like a Michael Conforto spot, in which case you have a TeoscarHernandez and maybe platoon in Andy Pages and a Michael Conforto. But I think that creates a hole in this Dodgers roster. I think you also illustrated a really good point. We were making a lot of assumptions based on some comments that the Dodgers themselves were making that Mookie Betts would be the second baseman, that there could be a need for a shortstop position or a third outfield spot that could have been opened up for this Dodgers team with Tommy Edman. If Mookie Betts was at second base, maybe taking some more time at the shortstop position. That is not the case. I think the Dodgers still believe in Gavin Lux, whether Dodgers fans love that idea or not, or love the idea of Mookie Betts playing shortstop or not. This seems to be the direction that the Dodgers are going, which rules out a Ha-Sung Kim. I think he's a really fine player, and I think if the Dodgers were moving Mookie Betts to second base, would have solidified that later in the season, maybe shortstop for this Dodgers team. I don't see that as happening right now because Mookie Betts is playing shortstop, and you have some guys that have insurance for him if needed, with a Miguel Rojas, with a Tommy Edman later in the season. They don't have to go make that signing right now. There is a limiting factor that is part of the Dodgers in their ability to have roster spots on the position player side right now. There's not a whole lot of position players that they can add in or be part of this roster with what they have right now. Again, ideally, and this is something that I'm sure the Dodgers would have preferred to do, is if they have a chance to potentially trade a Chris Taylor for a better player, for a better hitter, I'm sure they would love to do that. I think they're sticking with Chris Taylor. I don't think any team's going to be trading for Chris Taylor right now. And I think he's going to be, he's going to be on this Dodgers team for this upcoming season, which basically means that this Dodgers team has probably one more roster spot to be able to fill out on the position player side, maybe, if they wanted to re-sign a Kike Hernandez or a Teoscar Hernandez. And that it's very limited as far as what they're able to do. Or maybe they have two if you send an Andy Pages back to the minor leagues.
Yeah, that's how big of a crunch it is. And as far as Mookie going to shortstop, I don't think that's what the Dodgers planned on doing. I think whenever Willie Adames came off the board, it's like, okay, well, what is our next option? Well, to be honest with you, what we already have in-house, in their opinion, was the best option. So do you want to have Mookie Betts, Michael Conforto, and Gavin Lux, that little triangle? Or would you rather have Ha-Seong Kim, Mookie Betts, and not Michael Conforto? So I think they saw just adding the Michael Conforto to that mix, that kind of added, and then that added that one extra, one extra roster spot that you're going to have to deal with that we were talking about. And now, so you don't have a shortstop. Ha-Seong Kim's not going to be available till God knows when. And so what do we do at this point? Do we just let Miguel Rojas and Chris Taylor play shortstop and maybe a Kike Hernandez or whatever it is? Or do we just say, to hell with it, we're going to play Mookie Barrett there, we're going to keep Gavin Lux, and we're going to go right on down the road, because that was a pretty successful formula in the past. So it really, to me, I don't think this was plan A for the Dodgers. It sounds to me like they were going to take a shot at Willie Adames. When they didn't get Willie Adames, then they kind of evaluated their circumstances, and it's like, well, to be honest with you, what we already have in-house is better than what we can go get. Before we get your thoughts on that, Austin, we have a $9.99 super chat from our rock star, our superstar, Matt Kramer, Austin.
That is awesome. I really appreciate it, Matt. Absolutely amazing. The support that you get at Dodgers. Of course, I had to take a breath in the middle of while I'm trying to speak. Super appreciative of you guys and the Dodgers daily people. Just absolutely amazing, you guys.
Yeah. It is interesting, though, that you go through all these rigmaroles and Mookie Betts ends up being your shortstop. So let's address that. Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
let's address it.
I'm actually curious as far as your thoughts and your opinions as far as Mookie Betts playing second base and Gavin Lux being the second baseman this upcoming season. I'm curious.
It doesn't matter what my opinion is, and here's why. It doesn't matter what Andrew Friedman's opinion is, and here's why. I know you're going, what the hell are you talking about? Right? Here's why. Okay. Somebody's going to have to explain to me what the better option is out there right now. What is the better option that's available to the Dodgers at shortstop? What is it? Who is it?
Yeah, that is a really good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, so neither do the Dodgers. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So it doesn't matter. So, like, if you put a true serum in Andrew Friedman and you said, hey, Andrew, do you want Mookie playing short? More than likely, he'd probably say no, right? Yeah. But then whenever you actually get into reality and you get in these meetings, the ones that Chris was talking about, right, that they talk about all the personnel people, then the conversation becomes, okay, we don't want Mookie Betts at shortstop. Great, I hear you. What is your solution? So give me your solution.
Yeah, the only possible thing that I could think of that would be in-house with the Dodgers would be Edmund at shortstop, Miguel Rojas, and then move Mookie Betts back to the outfield. But
Miguel Rojas can't be your everyday shortstop. He's proven that. We said that all last year.
I'm talking about not him every single day. I'm talking about Tommy Edmund playing a lot of shortstop, as well as Miguel Rojas filling in every couple of days or so, and then Mookie Betts being the outfield. I think that could be potentially the pivot if Mookie Betts is not doing well again at the shortstop position, if he's not grading out well, which he does have a full offseason to be able to train, to be able to get himself ready to make those throws, to get that arm slot in the correct position and be able to do what is necessary at the shortstop position. The biggest thing that concerns me, and I'm sure it concerns the Dodgers, and this could be part of the equation, is how does a full season at shortstop due to the wear and tear of Mookie Betts, not just this season, but seasons down the line, because he's got 8 more years on his contract. That's why I think both you and I, as well as some comments that the Dodgers personnel has made, assumed that second base would be the position, because we assumed that is a much less taxing position than the shortstop position. But if anybody can pick up the shortstop position, if anybody's athletic to be able to do that, I'm sure it's Mookie Betts with a full offseason to be able to do that. I did not necessarily see that coming, but the Dodgers, it somewhat makes sense given the situation that they have in-house and given the assumption that Mookie Betts is moving back to the infield. They took a look at their situation and they weren't going to move Gavin Lux back to the shortstop position, which means it's Mookie Betts in that position. Whether that is in the best long-term interest for Mookie Betts and his health, that could be another discussion that you have. But this is what the Dodgers are doing, and we're going to roll with it, and this team is still going to be really good.
Yeah. So congratulations to Dave Roberts. He is the Baseball America Coach of the Year, and Manager of the Years. He definitely deserves that. So here's the next question. So you can't give me an answer on the better option at shortstop, right? Yep. Unless it's Tommy Edman. Okay. So give me the answer in center field. Who's the center fielder? Which Michael, that's what. If you were to make the argument that Michael Conforto does not make any sense, here's how you make that argument, and it's that he doesn't play center field. Right?
That is true. Yep.
You already have corner outfielders, especially if you re-sign Teo. Okay. Yeah. What you needed was a center fielder, so then you could play Tommy Edman at shortstop, right? Yes. And so the argument to Conforto is he's not a center fielder. So I'm going to ask the question again. As we bitch and moan about Mookie Betts playing shortstop, hey, have at it. I'm not saying don't. I'm not real happy about him being the shortstop. The process I'm trying to go through is the process that you go through when you build a roster. I've asked you who the better, not you, Austin. I'm just saying the conversation here. I've asked who's the better shortstop. We can't figure that out, right? There isn't one out there. Okay, so then the other option is Edman at short. Find another center fielder. Who is that? Who's a center fielder you get? Who is a center fielder the Dodgers can go get that would actually make them a better club at the same price than just putting Mookie at short and Tommy Edman in center? Who would that be?
There's not really a whole lot of options out there in center field. Was one of the reasons when we talked about different outfielders, one of the options that was given was she signed a deal with the White Sox, I believe, had the ability to play center field. That was a potential factor that the Dodgers could have taken into account. There's not really a whole lot of guys that can play center field on this Dodgers roster. Right now, it's Tommy Edman and maybe Andy Pages, even though I know a lot of Dodgers fans are not comfortable with Andy Pages out there in center field. And then James Outman, although if you bring back TeoscarHernandez, which he might be able to play a little bit of center field. I don't think it's everyday center field, though, out there. He would be another option that you could potentially have. There's really not a whole lot of other options. And even if you look at the free agents, the outfield bats that are on the market, most of them are corner outfielders.
Yes, right.
Which
it'd be via trade.
Yes, it would have to be some type of trade situation for a Robert or for a Bellinger. I'm sure those would probably be the names that would come up first.
Yeah. So where are you at on that?
Not really.
Luis Robert Jr. would be way more expensive than he would ever produce. At least you could be wrong there, but the projections would say he is not going to be anywhere close to his price tag. Am I off there?
I would say there's very serious risk of running into that. And you look at some of his projections, I think his projections, at least with Steamer, were like a 103 WRC plus. Yeah. Similar to a production that you would get from a Tommy Edman. Not saying that they are the exact same type of player, but saying that's what some of the projections are saying. He could be much better than that, but there's very serious risk when it comes to getting a Robert.
Yeah, and he's not going to cost you like a league average player. No, he's going to cost you like a superstar.
Yes, very much so, because he has that potential to be a superstar, but he also has the potential to not be the best type of players, which means I don't think the Dodgers are necessarily going to take that risk because they have players who can be a potentially top 5 to 10 center fielders in-house, but also have a lot of risk attached to them. I'm talking about a James Outman. He could very well be that type of risk. I think Luis Robert would probably be a better risk to take right now, but the Dodgers don't have to make that risk. So it's very slim picking as far as the choices for the Dodgers, which makes you kind of understand
what I'm trying to say.
What the Dodgers decided to do with Mookie at shortstop and Tommy Edman in center field. And what's the good thing about this is some of the players that they have, although they are not everyday players at that position, have the ability to be able to back up some of these positions, especially if you were to bring back a TeoscarHernandez. He would have the ability on rare occasions back up maybe a shortstop or a center field position. Not saying every day, but you also have a Miguel Rojas who can play shortstop, just not on a regular basis at his age. He's still around for the Dodgers team. You still have an Andy Pages who could play center field. Not saying that that is his natural position, but he has experience out there in center field. They do have some backup and a little bit of overlap in case things don't necessarily work. But
they do if they get Teo. I don't know if they do if they don't get Teo. I think you've got platoon bench players playing every day at that point.
You would
get Teo. Teo's in right field, Conforto's in left, or the opposite, and Andy Paez is in center. And now the Kike's and the Chris Taylors are your platoon bench players. And if I guess Edman, is your everyday center fielder. So I hear what you're saying, because Paez is your
because what would happen? Let's assume that Betts does not do well at shortstop. He's got to move back. Let's say back to the outfield, just like he did during this past season. He would move out to right field. Tommy Edman would likely come to shortstop, and then you would have a question of who you want to put at center field. The answer would probably have to be an Andy Pages or a TeoscarHernandez at that point in center field, in which case it's very similar to what you had during the postseason.
Yeah. So if you don't get Teo, you're looking at Edman in center, Conforto in left, and Andy Pages in right.
That is correct.
Yeah. And then maybe a James Outman as a fourth outfielder, something like that. And so here's like going back to the Luis Robert Jr. deal, right? Great defender. Okay. James Outman's a great defender, okay? Very high risk, high reward type of offensive player that strikes out way more than he walks, right? Is that Luis Robert Jr.?
He strikes out. During the past couple of seasons, he struck out quite a bit. He walked a little bit more last year, got closer to league average, but in the past, he's been more of a 4 to 5% walk percentage, maybe 6%.
You already have that skill set in James Outman, is what I'm trying to say. So if you just want that player that's a project, which Luis Robert Jr. is, that's going to, at the very least, give you above average defense and have no clue what they're going to give you offensively, which is exactly what you'd be doing if you got Luis Robert Jr. Am I wrong there, Austin? You're better at this than I am.
It would be more inconsistent at times. There would be very high highs for Luis Robert, in which case he could be one of the better players in the game of baseball. But there's also risk, like this past season that he had, which he was dealing with a lot of injuries, which he's had a past of dealing a lot of injuries. He wasn't necessarily the greatest player out there. So he has more history of being successful at the major league level than a James Outman at this point. More years to be able to do that and more history of high levels of production, but there's also a lot of very serious risk with a Luis Robert right now. So that's what I would say about him as far as his offensive production. Still a really good player, just inconsistent at times and not necessarily worth the risk and the prospect haul that it would take the Dodgers to be able to get it. Because I think the Dodgers, if they were going to trade some of their prospects, would like a little bit more security and certainty with the result that they would get on the other side. That would at least be my expectation with what the Dodgers would do, or at least my reading in the room. Could be just a little bit of bias that I have as far as the profile of players that I like.
So James Outman's first year as an outfielder was a 4.2 WAR season, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, the highest WAR for Luis Robert Jr. was 4.9, okay? Mm-hmm. This past season, he was 0.5, which is terrible. And then his other years, he's been 2.2, 3.5, and 1.4, right? So I would push back that he's any less risk than James Outman. Is what I'm saying. To me, they're the exact same player. They're a boom and bust, high. Whenever the highs are high, they have lots of highs. Then they also have lots of lows, and they're great defensive players. So to me, if you want to go get a Luis Robert Jr., in my opinion, just go ahead and put James Outman out there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way that the Dodgers would go. And there's, like we've talked about on past shows, there's an argument to be made that the Dodgers have to give at some point in the season James Outman some opportunities if they have any thoughts of wanting to keep him around during upcoming seasons. He does have one minor league option left this upcoming season.
Yeah.
Which means if they utilize his minor league options, which I think we're all expecting him to spend at least some time down in Oklahoma City, unless he kills it in spring training. If he gets sent down to the minor leagues, he does not have any minor league options for next season, which means he has to make the club, which means
Correct.
This is really his last year to be able to see if he's sticking around for this Dodgers team.
Yeah, that's another plus for keeping somebody like that around, too. Hey, here's an idea from Michael Carrillo. What about just trading for Matt McLain and putting him as shortstop?
Could be an option. I just don't see Cincinnati wanting to trade him right now. I think he's playing maybe second base is Ellie. I'm assuming Ellie's still playing shortstop for Cincinnati. So that could potentially open up an option, and it would be fun to have Matt and Sean in the same organization. I know brothers. They played in Arizona Fall League. Sean McLean, brother of Matt McLean, is in the Dodgers system, playing for High A Great Lakes. That would certainly be fun. I think it'd be potentially expensive to be able to get a player like that. I could see if it's a reasonable price to go out and get him. Perhaps I just like to see how much he's actually played on shortstop or at the shortstop position recently. I just don't know with Ellie playing a lot over there if he just hasn't had a whole lot of time at the shortstop position. He's played a lot more second base, in which case they already have Gavin Lux, and I don't see them making that trade. That would potentially be my only pushback. And then it comes down to a question of, okay, how much does it cost? I think he's got a lot of more years of club control, which with Cincinnati, with them not being a high spender in free agency, that is something that they very highly covet. So that could be another obstacle to the Dodgers going out and getting a Matt McLain. A good option, though. I love having all these different options. Interesting type player that potentially the Dodgers could target, in which case they would move Mookie to second base, in which case, and they wouldn't have Gavin Lux likely on this team. But I think right now Gavin Lux is a part of this 2025 Dodgers team, and I think that's just something that we're going to have to get used to.
Yeah. So let's go through the moves, okay? Juan Soto, for what he went for, should the Dodgers have matched that and acquired Juan Soto?
That I don't believe so, but that was 765, adding up to over 800. It's not that, it's the years. It's the years and the 15 years
and the lack of positional versatility, man.
Yes, he has to be insanely productive at the plate during long stretches of that for it to be worth it. I think the Dodgers were smart to set some type of limit at the $600 million, which likely meant less years that they were going to spend for Juan Soto. They're as good of a player as Juan Soto is, which he's a Hall of Fame type player. There's a lot of risk for that. So congratulations to Juan. Congratulations to the Mets. Juan's making a ton of money. The Mets are getting a fantastic player. That's far beyond anything that I ever thought that he was going to get. So even the 15 years is a very long commitment. And that
so yes or no? Yes or no?
No.
Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not. What about Willie Damas? What do you got?
7 years. I would not have given him 7 years. And congratulations to Willie. He's a San Francisco Giant. He's making $182 million over 7 years. 7 years makes me very uncomfortable, though, with his potential long-term projections at the shortstop position. I think he's going to get helped out a lot with Matt Chapman over there at third base for San Francisco, which could ease some of the hurdles that he has to take at the shortstop position. And I think that's probably a good fit, as opposed to having like a Max Muncy over at third base. I just wouldn't give him 7 years. I think there's too much risk right there, and I don't love that type of player. As opposed, I like him. I really like him as a player, but I don't necessarily love him, so I wouldn't give him the 7 years now.
Yeah. So Blake Trinan at 2 years.
don't necessarily love it, but I understand it and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm an absolutely yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. TeoscarHernandez at 5 years.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, okay, we can talk about Mookie going to short, whatever it is. At this point, the options that have been presented and available in front of the Dodgers have the decisions that have been made. I don't know how you could disagree with, argue with any of them. I don't know how you could make the case we should have got Soto at his price tag. I don't know how you could argue that we should have got Adames at 7 years. I don't know how you can argue that we shouldn't at least be negotiating with TeoscarHernandez right now at a 5-year term of contract, right? I don't know how anybody could argue that the Dodgers shouldn't have brought back Blake Trinan for 2 years after he threw what he did in the World Series, and he was just absolutely heroic. So we can bitch and moan all we want about the decision of moving Mookie to shortstop, which hell, they announced Gavin Lux can be the shortstop, and it lasted 10 days in spring training. And if something else comes available, that could change tomorrow. We all know that. Mm-hmm. Okay, but whenever you actually hit the nuts and bolts of it, as far as, okay, how did we get to this spot? The Dodgers have made the right decision on every decision that they have had to this point. Would you have went and gotten Garrett Crochet at his price tag?
At his price tag, giving up rushing plus DePaula plus some other people? Yes. No. I would have rather them go out and get Blake Snell, which they did.
So where have the Dodgers erred then?
I don't see how they erred at this point.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say. Exactly. Yeah. And they just got through winning a World Series. They just got through adding Shohei Ohtani. They just got through adding Tyler Glasnow, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. They added Jack Flaherty, Michael Kopech, and Tommy Edman to the trade deadline. They added Blake Snell this year, okay? They have turned down Willy Adames correctly. They have turned down Juan Soto correctly. They're negotiating with TeoscarHernandez correctly. They re-signed Blake Trinan even for the 2 years correctly. I mean, literally everything the Dodgers have done in the last 700 days, they have been 100% spot on with. I don't have any clue how any Dodgers fan at this point could have any negativity or any kind of bitching and moaning whatsoever towards anything the Dodgers front office is doing or has done.
Yeah, unless you get this player at all costs. It doesn't matter what the cost is, even though there are very serious ramifications towards every single decision that you made. And the decisions that you make now will have consequences later down the line. And I think the Dodgers would have paid for some of the consequences if they were to go out and get Juan Soto for 15 years later down that line. Now, that would have made this Dodgers offense unstoppable. And the Dodgers made a competitive offer, offering him $600 million. I can remember the last time I was offered $600 million to do anything. But the Dodgers were competitive, and they were interested in these guys. They were interested in a Willy Adames.
Made the right decision.
They still are interested in a TeoscarHernandez, and very realistically have a good chance of signing Teo because of, and we've talked a lot about his production on the offensive side. There's another component which I addressed on Monday, which I know cannot be quantified, is what he meant to this clubhouse, and that is going to be, if he's not a part of this team, a clubhouse presence that is desperately missed by this team.
They've got plenty of leaders in that team.
They've got a lot of different players that can help fill in that role, but he provided a really important piece to this clubhouse.
It just means he fits. It means that breaks the tie if you want Teo. That's all that means.
Yes.
That doesn't mean you go get him because he's great in the clubhouse. That means that if you're on the teeter-totter as to whether to get him or not, that fact that we know that he fits so well in this system, that might be able to break the tie, break the teeter-totter, right? Hey, we have a $10 super chat from our rock star, Christopher Navarro, Casey, and Austin. Love the show. Who's faster, Zaire Hope or Kendall George? Not even close. That's easily Kendall George. And Kellen Lindsay. Kellen Lindsay will have to show me that he is faster than Kendall George, because I have seen Kendall George tag up from second base on a fly ball to center field and score from home. I've seen him score from second base on a routine ground ball to third base. I have seen him steal home. I have seen that dude be Mr. Electric. So, hey, Kellen Lindsay's supposed to have 80 grade speed. He's a shortstop. We'll see. But I'll tell you this, there's no way he's going to be faster than Kendall George. Kendall George is abs. And matter of fact, I released my interview with him. Was it today at lunch or was that yesterday?
Yeah, it was. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but it was today at lunch.
Yeah.
I got to watch that just like everybody else needs to watch.
He's a dude, man. He's a dude. Yeah. He only hit one home run, but the one home run he hit at Stockton was an absolute bomb. So the strength is there. They're working on a swing to get the ball in the air a little bit more. So I really can't give you a grade between Kellen Lindsey's speed and Kendall George's, other than to say there is no way that Kellen Lindsey is going to be faster than Kendall George. In my opinion, I just don't see how that could be.
It is really difficult to beat 90 grade speed, which I think we all agree Kendall George has, which I have not had a chance to see. I'm excited to see that coming up in Great Lakes this upcoming season. Kendall George, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Hey, one of the questions I asked was, what was it like getting to play with Josue De Paula and Zaire Hope? And he went into detail about how cool that outfield was. So, hey, we have another super chat from one of our rock stars, Austin, Roy Song. Roy Song absolutely rocks. Hi, Casey and Austin. Joining late as more time passes, I think Teo is slipping away. Your thoughts, higher chance we get Sasaki or Teo? I'll say this. I think Teo's making a mistake, okay? Because I think, okay, the Dodgers might give him a 4-year deal, maybe at the edge of that. But I think coming to the Dodgers, we've all known TeoscarHernandez was a decent player, a pretty good player, right? Okay.
Yeah, very good hitter.
Okay, but what I'm trying to tell you is now everybody in baseball knows the type of player that TeoscarHernandez is. I think coming to the Dodgers greatly enhanced his reputation as a baseball player, and I think staying here will continue to do that, and he's going to continue to win world championships. So who am I to say it's not my money? I don't make that kind of money. But I can tell you that at some point after I've made he's going to make plenty of money with the Dodgers. I would rather make the 4 years worth of money, win 3 world championships, than go get a 5th year somewhere else and not win one. To me, that is just an absolute complete no-brainer. So on the other side of that, in negotiations, if I'm the Dodgers, I'm thinking, surely this guy can't think that going somewhere else just for one more extended year actually is a better deal for him, right? And that's part of the negotiations of holding out of. Surely he'll come to his senses and realize that if we give him 4 years here with the Dodgers and he wins 3 World Series, that he has to realize that's the best situation for him.
It is very difficult to get into the mind of these type of players, especially when they're making these type of decisions that could have lasting effects, not just for them personally, but for their family and for generations of family. And we were talking about an extra year on the deal that could potentially be an extra $20-ish million, which sounds like, oh, that's just adding on top of everything. But that could be very serious money as far as depending on what he's wanting to do with that, as far as charitable donations, as far as making an impact for his family, for his community, whatever that is, that's all part of the picture with TeoscarHernandez and what he's wanting to do. Very difficult to get into the mindset. I think it's starting to feel like, because there was rumors maybe a week or two ago, that the Dodgers were really close to getting a TeoscarHernandez, and they haven't come to fruition yet, assuming that a signing hasn't happened while we've been live. Because they haven't come to fruition quite yet, and because some of the dominoes are starting to fall, and because outfielders are hard to come by, and there's some teams with a lot of money that missed out on a big-time free agent, that there's going to be a lot of very serious, very competitive offers to get a TeoscarHernandez. So it's easy to say, come to the Dodgers and win a World Series championship, when we don't necessarily know what exactly is going into the mindset with that. It's impossible for us to know. We'll never see anywhere close to that type of money. But with Teo, I think he's going to very seriously consider the Dodgers. I think he really enjoyed his time, and the Dodgers would welcome him back at the Dodgers' terms. I don't think the Dodgers are going to bend over backwards necessarily to get TeoscarHernandez at whatever cost. There's going to be some sort of limit that they're going to have, and it's up to Teoscar whether he wants to come back, pushing it to that limit, and we'll see what happens with that. I'm still optimistic regardless, because I still think this Dodgers lineup, even as constructed right now, still is a really, really good lineup and still can do a ton of damage in the game of baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting some comments to keep the chat civil. Hey, we love everybody giving their opinion. I've read through some of it. I don't see where there's a whole lot of bickering back and forth, but definitely do keep the chat civil. The conversation here is give your opinion. You can hear my barn in the background. He's probably want Daddy to take him on a WLK. I can't say the word. He'll go nuts if I say the word. But yeah, definitely keep it civil. Give all of your opinions. Agree, disagree, whatever you may do. That's what Austin and I are doing, right? But let's do it in a civil way where we respect everybody, where everybody gets to give their opinion, and it's kind of that safe haven, if you will, to where you can come over and think about things, think through, maybe hear somebody else's opinion, take their opinion on, evaluate it, give your opinion, and go back and forth. That's what makes this fun. So let's continue to keep it that way. Like for instance, like Hep C has a lot of these great comments, and he's very passionate about, or he or she, and I love that, and always very respectful. And everybody in here always is very respectful. That's one of the things that we take a lot of pride in. So let's keep it that way. Let's keep it passionate. Let's keep the thoughts going. Let's keep the disagreements going, and let's keep it civil and respectful, right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I want to hear every single of one of your ideas. I can have maybe a little bit of pushback as some of the ideas are concerned, but it has to be done respectfully, because I think all of you guys, I respect you guys as baseball people, as baseball fans, and I want to take every single one of your guys' comments with serious merit.
Yeah, absolutely. We have another super chat from Christopher Navarro. Austin, can you please state Gavin Lux's second half stats? Christopher Navarro, yes. You are a rock star. Thank you so much.
Yeah, give me just a second to be able to figure that out. I'll pull up some of the numbers. We'll go and we can go through some of his second half stats. They are significantly better than what his first half stats are. And we could even do looking at some of his stats by breaking it down from All-Star break on. That could be another different area that we could do. So just looking at his first half and second half stats, which I'm going to use some of the advanced features. Let's see if I can find some of these right now. It might be just a minute to be able to find that. So I'll let Casey talk for a little bit until I get this stuff.
Yeah, Gavin Lux is a guy that, to be honest with you, he was about 3 days away, in our opinion, from being optioned down to AAA Oklahoma City, if not just the Dodgers trying to figure out what to do with him as far as whether he's going to be on the roster. At that point, he took off. He started hitting. He took the bull by the horn. He was the Dodgers' best hitter for a stretch. Then he struggled again, and then it's like, oh, my gosh, what's going to happen again to Gavin Lux? And then he rebounded just a little bit there towards the end of the playoffs. He had the big at-bat in his last at-bat. And here's the other thing about Gavin Lux, and I'll throw it back to you, Austin. He played great defense last year. So at the very least, he set a floor that was acceptable for the Dodgers because his defense was good enough.
Yeah, I think that's right. So we'll first take into context the first half, which was not good for Gavin Lux, which Casey had just mentioned. He was batting .213.
Hey, Austin, what side are you pulling your stats from, first of all? Empire Jeff.
So I'm pulling these from Baseball Reference. I actually wasn't able to get first half and second half, and I didn't want to go through the game logs. So I just went to Baseball Reference to be able to get to these stats. And you can actually find these stats. If you look up Gavin Lux, there is a tab that says splits. You can go to the 2024 season. That is where I'm finding these. So again, I want to equip you guys with tools to be able to go and find each one of these statistics. So first half, Gavin Lux, which was 78 games, 277 plate appearances, batted .213 with a .267 on base percentage, a .295 slugging. That equated to a 61 OPS plus. OPS plus and WRC plus basically are telling the exact same story. He was 39% worse than the league average hitter, 61 OPS plus.
In the first half?
Not in the first half, yes. During the second half, however, and this is where things changed, and this is why the Dodgers are still comfortable with giving Gavin Lux opportunities, is because in 210 plate appearances, which was 61 games, he batted .304, .391 with a .508 slugging percentage. He had 7 home runs during that stretch. That equated to a .155 OPS plus. So if you equate that to a 155 WRC plus during the second half, the last 210 plate appearances, he was 55% better than the league average hitter. So it's a question of which Gavin Lux are you going to get? Are you going to get the first half or are you going to get the second half? I think the Dodgers are probably betting somewhere in between, which with the defense that he's been able to provide.
You're such a statistician, dude.
Oh, I know.
Somewhere in between. Listen to you go, dude.
Dude, this is what I have to do for a living. It's probably going to be somewhere in between. So that could be maybe like a 90 WRC plus, which probably wouldn't be necessarily what the Dodgers are looking for. But it could be maybe a 100 to a 110 WRC plus, which I think the Dodgers would be relatively happy with the type of player that a Gavin Lux is. So very different stats, first half and second half for Gavin Lux. If he is the second half type of player, he is a great player. He's an all-star player in the game of baseball.
So let me ask you this. Why do you think the first half happened the way it did?
There could be a lot of different reasons.
What would be your biggest reason? Give me your big number one reason why you think he struggled so much in the first half.
Coming back from injury.
Absolutely.
Not being 100%. Able to – it's coming back from injury, and you compound that with, hey, I'm relying upon to be the shortstop for this Dodgers team, and I was not able to do that. And they had to bend over backwards to be able to fill that. And now I have to press and try to do everything offensively that I can. And I think when you're in the mindset of pressing, when you're in a mindset of trying to come back from injury, probably not the best place to be.
Nope.
And so when he's had a chance to be able to get a little bit of success, to be able to relax and especially take a break after the All-Star break, I think that probably did him some wonders. Again, this is me trying to read some tea leaves as far as Gavin Lux. I don't know Gavin personally, but that would be probably my biggest guess as far as was concerned. Missed all of 2023. It was going to take some time for him to be able to get into the swing of things. It was just really slow for him to get back. But once he got back, he was productive on the offensive side. And if he puts up a 155 OPS plus, Dodgers fans beyond thrilled with that. You're talking about Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman level of production. I don't think he'll be that through the 2025 season, but that's what he was during the second half of the season. That was very good for him.
This may be true or it may not, but there's no way that you can't make the argument that the reason why Gavin Lux struggled in the first half is because he was still trying to recover from injury. His body didn't feel the same. His old swing mechanisms didn't work because his body wasn't able to do the same things that his old swing mechanisms and swing triggers needed him to do. And as he got further away from his injury, his body got more limber, it got loosened up, and he was able to get back into his swing triggers and his swing mechanisms like he used to be able to do, the healthier he got. So that may or may not be true. It may be just a complete total coincidence that the second half of the season when he was healthier, it just happened to be that's when he hit better than the first half when he wasn't as healthy. That could be an entirely total coincidence, but you're not going to be able to convince me of that. As of right now, if I had to make a statement as why was Gavin Lux bad in the first half and good in the second half, I don't know how anybody could make the argument other than, well, hell, he was healthy in the second half, right? And then that leads you into, well, he's going to be even more healthy in 2025, right? So we're expecting a fully healthy Gavin Lux, and based off the sample size we got last year, a healthy Gavin Lux was a pretty damn good player, right? I mean, whether you agree with that or not, that's really where that's where that's kind of the case study of where it's at right now, I would have to think.
I would assume that is, and the way everything's equated out during the course of the 2024 season, he ended up being a league average hitter at the end of the day. Now that included incredible lows and then ups at the end. I would expect much more consistency out of Gavin Lux during this upcoming season, but I think there is some potential upside that the Dodgers saw, and they've clearly liked the ability that Gavin Lux has had, even dating all the way back to his time at the minor leagues. They're going to give him every opportunity to be the player that they believe he can be. And if they can find a way to get him more opportunities to do so in the 2025 season, they're going to do so. And that means Mookie Betts is going to be playing the shortstop position. And that's the best that's the best thing that the Dodgers can do right now, assuming that the Dodgers don't make any other trades, because Ha-Seong Kim won't be available for likely a little bit of the first half of the season.
Yeah. So do you think somebody will pick up Ha-Seong Kim in the offseason?
Absolutely. He's going to get a deal. I don't know how long it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be a 1 year.
What type of team can
deal.
take him on for any kind of expensive contract and not be able to play him for the first half of the season? I mean, who can do that?
I mean, if you have a 1 year deal plus a club option and you're betting, hey, this is the type of player that we believe in because he's had some upside to be a 4-WAR player, and if he can get to being a healthy type of player, especially if we have a club option attached to that, maybe we don't get a lot in 2025, but we could be getting some in 2026. I think there's certain teams that I think would be willing to take on that type of bet and add him to the 40-man roster, because you can put him on the 60-day injury list, and when he's healthy, you can add him onto the roster. I think that's what another team they could potentially do, and I think there's a lot of other organizations that would be interested in the type of talent that he has.
Keep going, Austin. I'm typing a post here.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So
okay, yeah. Hey, let me go ahead and say this out loud. Hey, we've had an awesome chat. This has been maybe the best chat we've ever had. This is the type of fired up, competitive, passionate. I love this stuff. Okay, I'll say it one more time though. Refrain from calling players garbage. They're trash. Players aren't garbage and trash. They're the greatest players in the world, and they're playing the most difficult game ever invented. Okay, yep. If you don't believe me, go try it. Okay, go try to hit a 100-mile-an-hour fastball that has 14 inches of horizontal movement and 17 inches of vertical to it. Just go try to hit that, right? So this is the hardest game in the world to play, and it's the greatest players that walk the face of the earth trying to do it. So no player whatsoever is garbage. And like I said, this has been a great chat. But please also refrain from trying to argue or be confrontational with the other posters. That's just not how we do things. The way we do things here is that we converse back and forth. I give my opinion, you give your opinion. I give my opinion, you give your opinion. But it's in a way to where we're communicating with each other. We're not trying to argue with each other or call each other dumbasses, right? That kind of thing.
And I think that is the model that the Dodgers as an organization take. We try to do things and we try to model things as the Dodgers do as an organization. That's why we set it up that way. That's why we enjoy bantering back and forth, playing a little bit of devil's advocate and having good discussion about this. I think it's a lot of fun, and also try to be uplifting to a lot of these guys. Baseball is a game of failure. We don't have to add on top of that.
Yeah. You want to know something funny about what Andrew Freeman, it took me back when I went on with D-Mac. Probably 3/4 of the way through the season last year, he asked about Mookie Betts play, or whatever it was. Mookie Betts playing shortstop. He asked me what are my thoughts on him playing. I said, simply put, here are my thoughts about Mookie Betts playing shortstop. I'm always going to bet on Mookie Betts. I don't care if it's throwing darts. I don't care if it's bowling. I don't care if it's tiddlywinks. I am betting on Mookie Betts. That was my exact comment to D-Mac on the Dodgers Nation show, because when you have dudes like that, they figure it out, right? I mean, there's obviously certain there's limitations out there to some things, but I just found it totally appropriate, the comment that Andrew Freeman made about Mookie Betts. Hey, all I can tell you is I'm betting on the man. I'm betting on Mookie Betts. If you so choose not to bet on Mookie Betts, do it at your own peril, right? I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that is very cool. And it's almost impossible to argue with Andrew Freeman on that case. Mookie Betts is amazing. And especially if you give him time to be able to perfect the craft, I think we're going to see a better version of Mookie Betts at shortstop than what we saw last season. Whether it would be slightly below league average, a little bit below league average, maybe even above league average, that's up to Mookie Betts and what he's able to do during this upcoming season. We'll see what happens.
Is Teoscar-Hernandez overplaying his hand? I think most Dodgers fans are going to agree on Soto. Not every Dodgers fan.
Yeah.
Most Dodgers fans are going to agree on Soto. Most Dodgers fans are going to agree on Willy Adames. Most Dodgers fans are going to agree on Garrett Crochet. I think most Dodgers fans are going to agree that they wanted Blake Trinan back, even for the 2 years. So the one question out there, we're going to leave with this one, Austin, is Teoscar-Hernandez overplaying his hand here?
It depends on what exactly the holdout is for. And I'm going to go through years as far as whether he's holding out his hand. If he's holding out for a 3-year deal, then teams are just being stingy. And I don't imagine that's being the case. If he's holding out for a 4-year deal, you can kind of go 50-50 either way as far as team or Teoscar, as far as whether you're doing that. If he's holding out for a 5th-year deal, though, I think he's being stingy, and I think it's very difficult to see the Dodgers being willing to make that deal take place, because you'd be getting him from his age 32 through 36 season. I don't think the Dodgers want to take that risk, especially with a guy who has to be productive on the offensive side, given the projection of his defense going forward and not having the designated hitter spot open.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be interested to see what this. I'll be disappointed in Teo if he chases the money instead of the culture, and it'd be different. Like like Juan Soto, the Dodgers want to give him 5 years and he wants 15. Okay, I get it, right? But I mean, if the Dodgers are willing to go 4, like if we find out later the Dodgers are willing to go 4 and he leads for 5.
The question is, I don't even know if the Dodgers necessarily want to go 4. I think they probably want to go 3.
They don't want to. Yeah. I think they would go 4.
I think that's the question as far as Dodgers.
I think they're trying not to, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes.
I think that's what this holdout and negotiations are, is that Teo wants 5, they want 3, and they're holding out long enough to see how they can get to 4. If you will, right? That's kind of what I mean. That's where if you were to ask me to be a betting man, I would say Teo signs with the Dodgers at 4 years. But I know, like my comment on Mookie bets, don't ever bet against Mookie, right? Yeah. I'll tell you one thing, I am never betting against Andrew Freeman. That dude never, I never say never. He has lost some trades. There's no doubt. The Dodgers have traded away guys that they shouldn't have traded, or allowed them to get it happens to everybody. So never say never. But I'll tell you what, I'm not betting against Andrew Freeman. I would trust him in a negotiation as much or more than anybody else in the game right now.
Relative to other teams, the Dodgers have made a lot better decisions than other teams have.
Yeah, absolutely, Austin. This has been a fantastic chat. I want to thank everybody for your wonderful, passionate chat. We all love the Dodgers. This has been absolutely awesome. I've been reading these guys. I haven't been able to. What's great about it is we've had so many, I haven't been able to read them over the air. And sometimes it gets better because whenever you have the fans communicating with each other, it gets to be, more of a roundabout chat instead of me just reading them on the air. So I've been reading through all these guys and gals out there. This has been just an incredible chat. It makes it worth it. It's been very fun to watch, and it's been absolutely awesome to read. And so, Austin, do you have any final thoughts?
Yes, and actually, I don't think we're done quite yet, because it would be, I don't think, right for us to do this whole show without talking a little bit about the Rule 5 draft.
Yes.
And we have to give some big congratulations. First, the biggest congratulation that we're going to give is to left-handed pitcher Garrett McDaniels. Garrett McDaniels actually, and this is something where you can blame it on me a little bit. I'm going to blame it on Fangraphs, because he was not on the list as far as players that were eligible for the Rule 5 draft. Garrett McDaniels is a left-handed pitching prospect that was in this Dodgers system. He is no longer part of this Dodgers system. He was the one player at the major league portion of the Rule 5 draft to be selected from this Dodgers organization. He was drafted by the Los Angeles Angels, so he will be, assuming that the Angels find a spot for him in spring training, he will be competing for a roster spot on the Angels for the entirety of the 2025 season. So first off, congratulations to Garrett. What's interesting about him and interesting about this selection is he spent a lot of this time in Rancho, and then the rest of the time basically in Great Lakes, and a week in Tulsa. Yeah, and the Angels took a chance on him.
I got to see him in Wichita.
Yes.
He's awesome.
Oh, you got to. Oh, yeah. Yes. I got to see his.
My
time
wife and I got to see him last game of the year in Wichita.
Yes,
absolutely. Antonio Knowles got us tickets. He's dirty. The problem is he hadn't been healthy. He's another one of these guys that's finally healthy, and he's just now rounding into being dirty. And I can't believe somebody actually, who took him? Do you remember?
The Angels did.
I can't. Well, I can't believe the Angels were able to dig in and find him like that.
I know.
I know. Matter of fact, Fangraphs didn't even have him listed as eligible for the Rule 5.
They still have him listed as eligible December 25, which means like I didn't even think about him. And then all of a sudden during the Rule 5 draft, I'm like, Gary McDavid, what the heck? Whoa, what is he doing out there? But also, big congratulations. This stuff is nasty. The Angels got a gem. It's going to be about if he's able to find that consistency, making that jump basically from high A all the way to the major leagues, which is a big jump. Yeah. But with his nasty stuff, it's absolutely incredible. Also, a couple of other guys that got selected, which I'm going to look on my phone just to make sure that I get to with the destination correct. There were some other people, including some of our favorites here on Dodgers Daily, including some people that you've actually heard from with interviews over the past month or so. Last week, absolutely. So the first one that we got to give a congratulations to, Hong-Il Choi. Is going in the AAA phase, which all these players that I'm talking about next were drafted in the AAA phase of the Rule 5 draft, which means that they get to go to a new organization added to their AAA 40-man roster. They can still move up and down between AAA, AA, single A, wherever, but they're part of a new organization.
Do they have to be on the 40-man? They don't have to be on the 40-man.
No, they do not have to be on the Major League 40-man. They have to be on the AAA 40-man. They don't even have to be on the
AAA roster.
They do not have to be.
Let me go ahead with this. Yeah. Okay, so to be eligible for the minor league phase of the Rule 5, that means you weren't taken in the major league phase. And then to protect any of your players from getting taken in the minor league phase, you have to put them on your AAA roster. So if you don't put a player...
Yes, so this becomes very complicated. So there's the AAA, there's the active, think of it like the major league roster, the 26 and 40 man. There's the active AAA roster, but then there's also there's like a 38 or 40 man AAA roster that is also part of organizations, which includes players down at the lower levels of the minor leagues.
They list them on the roster, though.
Oklahoma City.
They list them on the roster, though. They list those guys on the roster.
Yeah.
I mean, even those guys are listed on the AAA roster at that point. So
I don't necessarily know all the rules as far as the players that are eligible for that. I'm just going to go through the different names of the people that were selected as part of that phase because they're now in a new organization. So first player that was selected, we interviewed him not too long ago. Super fun personality. Hong-Il Choi is going to be a Washington National. Congratulations to him. I think he's going to get better opportunities. I'm surprised that the Dodgers didn't have him on the roster, didn't have him protected, but I think it's probably good for Choi, given some of the limitations as far as the pitchers that are on this roster. I think he's going to get major league experience over in DC, and for that, I'm happy for him about that.
Yeah, absolutely awesome.
Yes. Another player that got selected, Michael Hobbs was selected.
My man.
Absolutely. The guy with the mustache, the guy with some really filthy stuff. He's going to be a New York Met. He was selected in the AAA phase. He's going to be part of the New York Met system. Congratulations to him. Orlando Ortiz Mayer is going to be a Miami Marlin, which if you're going to watch one of the player interviews, which watch all of them, that is one of the ones towards the top of the list that you need to watch, even though he's not part of the Dodgers organization. Where is he from?
Florida.
That
played a part into that, so he's going home.
Yes, he's going home.
That's the kind of stuff that lights me. I love that stuff, man.
Yes,
because that dude has been overlooked. He was not going to ever get opportunity in the Dodgers system. Now he goes back to Miami. He gets to be close to home and gets an opportunity to make a major league roster with Miami in his home state by his parents. Yes. Wow. What a great, just awesome, man.
It's absolutely amazing. So another player that was selected, I didn't get a chance to watch him at all. Jefferson Valladares taken by Minnesota. He's going to be part of their system now. Also want to give a shout out. I was actually doing a little bit of research as far as there are some guys that were minor league free agents, some relief pitchers that were minor league free agents. Got to give a congratulations to a guy like Michael Martinez, who's part of Minnesota as well. He was part of the system. I believe Sarin Lau is part of Seattle now. Yes. Congratulations to him. And then Juan Murillo, all these three guys, Michael Martinez, Sarin Lau, and then Juan Murillo were all free agents. I believe Juan Murillo is with Arizona now. So some guys that were part of the system moving different places, hopefully getting better opportunities in those places than what they were getting the Dodgers, just because there's so much talent. There's up and down the system, there's a lot of talent, but especially the guys that were selected in the Rule 5 draft. One of my favorite events of the year, very much a nerd baseball type thing.
Yeah,
Garrett McDaniels to the major league portion. Very good chance that he's going to get at least some run time at the major league level with the Angels. And then Michael Hobbs, Hong-Il Choi, Orlando Ortiz Mayer, and Jefferson Valladares. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but
Valladares, yeah.
Valladares. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are the players that were selected and are no longer part of the Dodgers organization. Now, Garrett McDaniels could be back in the Dodgers organization if he is not on the Angels roster for the entirety of the season. They decide to return him, but I hope that he is able to stick and he establishes himself as a big league pitcher. That's my hope for him, as good of a talent as he is. And as much as I'd like to see him on the Dodgers, I want him to see a big leaguer better. I just want him to see him become a big leaguer more. And I'm excited about his opportunity.
Yeah, I've actually communicated with Jefferson Valladares a couple times, him and both Carlos Rojas, because they are both from let's see, how do you say this? Barquisimeto, Venezuela. They're both from the exact same town. They both got signed on the exact same day. They both got sent to the DR at the exact same time. They both got sent from the DR to the United States at the exact same time. They both were on Rancho last year, so they've kind of kept Carlos Rojas and Jefferson Valladares together, both being from the same town there in Venezuela. And so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Valladares is a very good right-handed stick. Really does a good job using the middle of the field, really flat swing. So good player.
Yeah, he's a good player. They're all of these guys, very good players. They're good. The other organizations are going to really like having them around. It's the exact same phase for the minor league side that Carson Taylor got taken.
Yes, right.
Just recently with Philadelphia.
Last year. Hey man, it's time to go. Any more thoughts?
No, it's been a fun show. Very important discussions. Very interesting. Not where I expected things to go, even just a week ago. Of course, as far as where the state of the Dodgers is, which that makes things fun and makes it seem like, hey, we don't know all the answers for this Dodgers team. Makes it a little bit unpredictable, but this Dodgers team is still good. This Dodgers team is talented. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for Garrett. I'm excited for all the guys that got selected in the Rule 5 draft, and I hope there's more opportunities for these guys at the minor league level to be able to establish themselves. But more importantly than that, I hope there's another World Series coming up next year.
Absolutely. Hey, Austin, thanks a lot, man.